Well,
otherwise I've got to log out of this and log back in as you to get it going.
I see it.
What does it say?
I see it in YouTube.
Is there a button to click or anything that says to start it?
Share.
You're good. I think.
Do you see it?
You now say live on YouTube.
Yep. Okay.
Wait, hang on, you're not live on YouTube yet.
Okay, so can I let everyone in?
But you're not live on YouTube yet.
It says I am.
But I don't see you in there. I'm refreshing.
It says recording live on YouTube. Here, Leah, I'm sending over the YouTube. I'm gonna let people in though. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay, go ahead. I have to mute myself, otherwise you're gonna get a ton of echoes.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Drops off next.
Hi, ladies.
There goes the boat.
How is everyone? Connie, how are you?
Hi,
Ashley.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, Jen.
Gang's all here. I love it. Thank you guys for hanging in there. We were trying to be big girls and figure out how to live stream on YouTube and figure out how to live stream in the community. We will figure it out. It may not be this time, but we will figure it out. So thank you everyone for joining. I see a lot of really familiar faces, which is just so awesome. Very, very excited today. Our second birthday. It's wild. And this fell off the wall, but just know it's here in spirit and we're celebrating all day. So that we got some balloons, the whole shebang. Very, very, very excited to have y'all and really excited to have Leah. I mean, well, Leah always, but also Jen. Let me share my screen real quick as always. And we will get this started. All right. All right, can everyone see my screen? Fantastic. All right, as I said, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of Prowess. This is, I feel like a proud, proud, proud mother. Year 2 is just fantastic. This started off as something just so, what if in a million years the world could look like, and here we are 2 years later and just seeing it happen and seeing all of you and your smiling faces and hearing all your stories. It's just, it's everything. And it truly does. Later in the conversation, we'll talk through just, of course, this year in review and everything that happened. I'll give you some numbers to chew on, and then of course where we're headed in the next year and so on. So with that, diving into the content here, I want to introduce you all to Jen Slasky-Halligan. Bit of background on Jen. Jen was my first ever boss what I love about Jen, and not to throw her under the bus, but then also say how awesome she was. My first interview with her, I showed up at Starbucks where we were supposed to meet. I had my business suit on and like this briefcase that I just bought. I was so excited. And 30 minutes into the interview, she still wasn't there. Like, oh God. I was like, this is so terrifying. And oh my God, is this how the job world is, et cetera, et cetera. So after probably an hour, she gives me a call. She's like, oh my gosh, it's a startup world. I'm so sorry. I got distracted. She said, instead of meeting for coffee, can you meet for margaritas? And my response was, oh, hell yeah, but can I take off these heels? And I will be there. So that just started off our relationship. And I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities that she gave me through Spiceworks. And then she basically paved the path for me to live in London, which was a dream of mine. And we have been close ever since. So with that, I will hand it over to Jen.
Hi, everyone. Ashley, I just told that story the other day too to someone as well, and I love it. I was explaining who Ashley was. There's actually another company that I know of that's interested in working with Prowess, and all of you wonderful ladies and the talent that you could help them with. And he was just asking me the background. Well, how do you know, Ashley and Leah? And I was just explaining like what our background was. So I just told that story 2 days ago as well. And I feel like in the spirit of margaritas, today is a perfect day for margaritas. Happy birthday, Prowess. And to obviously Ashley and Leah, but also all of you lovely ladies that are the heart and soul of obviously what keeps this beautiful thing blossoming. And I just, I couldn't be more proud of just everything that y'all have accomplished. And I can't believe it's only been 2 years. That blows me away. And I, when I was actually doing my slides for this morning, because I like to have slides to walk through what I'm going to talk about, just to kind of keep myself on track, because as per the story Ashley told, that's not always a strength of mine, to keep it real. But I looked back, and this time last year, I think it was almost exactly about a year, I did my first, was it my first booth session with you all? I think on values.
It was. She rang in birthday number 1 with us, and now birthday number 2.
Thanks for inviting me to the parties every year, ladies. I appreciate it. And so what I wanted to do today, Ashley had asked me if I could talk about goals. And I'll be honest, when she said that, there was like that piece inside me that kind of cringed, because it was like right around the new year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are we all goaled out already? And, but like, I get really geeked out in the beginning of the year because I like new beginnings. And I just am such a nerd about possibility, and just how we always have the chance to write a new chapter in our lives. And so, I'm really honored that she asked me to do this, but also in the spirit of the story Ashley told. And authenticity is super important to me. And I feel like in the world that we live in today, we just have to be able to be real with each other. We're all doing the best we can. Life is crazy. Nothing's perfect. And change is hard. And so that's why when she said goals, I was like in this place where I was like, oh yeah, I have my own too. But then I got excited because I was like, I just want to, I want to connect with these ladies on a birthday and maybe give a little bit of a different perspective on goals. That might be a way of thinking about it that we haven't heard before, that can, I think, help us all maybe even write a new chapter in terms of how we approach goals. So thanks in advance for going along on this little ride with me. And let me try to end the ride that is always me and technology. Connie will laugh because she knows, Connie, some things never change. But let me see if I can share my screen effectively. Can you all see my screen? Okay, look, there's the Prowess. Prowess.
Love
look.
it.
Okay, let's see if it'll, okay, there we go. I just want everybody, I always start like this. But I just want everybody to take a few deep breaths. Just close your eyes. If you even want to like shut your video off, that's fine too, but you don't have to. And just take a deep breath, inhale. And then exhale. And keep inhaling and exhaling. And just continue on with your breathing. And notice every time that you inhale where your breath goes to. If maybe it's in your throat, just notice that. And in the next breath you take, try to get that breath to go a little bit deeper down into your chest. And then with the next one, try to get it a little bit further down towards your tummy and your belly. And what I want you to do is keep breathing, and with each breath, try to get it to go a tiny bit lower into your belly, down even towards your kneecaps and your toes so you can feel it. And I'm going to read a poem for us. It's called Start Close In by David White. Continue just your breathing slowly. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in. The step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. And if maybe everybody could take a couple more deep breaths and then slowly open your eyes and come back with us here in Zoom world. So I always like to start a little bit with that chance for us to just breathe, because everybody's life is so busy, and people that have been on booth sessions before know that this is what I do. And today I questioned it because it's such a celebration and the energy is so bright and big, and I didn't want to cloud that or bring it down too much. But I wanted to do this because today my goal is for this to be a celebration of you and for your goals, and for you to get greedy about them in a way that serves you, but doesn't put you in a place of shoulding on yourself, is a term I've heard before. And I think it's helpful because we can all be like, I should, and we can look to what other people are doing on their goals. And it just gets all sorts of stuff. And so I like to start with our own breathing, and a poem like this, it just allows us some grace and some authenticity, where wherever we're at today, here is just fine. And whatever our New Year's resolutions were or thoughts we had last year, wherever, it's all good. And today's about you and giving you a new way to meet yourself where you're at on relative to the places you maybe envision yourself or would like to see. And to start off with that, pop quiz, 80%. Any guesses what this number may be about relative to our topic? Anyone? And if you're in the chat room, I can't see it. So if anybody sees anything and can just call
I'll
that
take a
out.
stab at it. Is it how many people have already given up on their New Year's resolutions?
Ding, ding, ding. Bravo, Lori. There you go. 80%. And you might be like, Jen, how is that really helpful to start? Well, I just think, again, I believe in grace and I believe in being real and human. And that 80% number sounds really high, But when you think about life and everything we're already dealing with before we ask ourselves to make these major changes that we seem to expect of ourselves every so often, it's not that surprising. And I think the thing that I've realized is I'm in the process of getting my master's in counseling, and I've been learning a lot about the neuromechanics of any number of things. But when I learned about the neuromechanics involved with change, I just felt like we'd all been done a huge disservice by never being educated about how the brain actually works with change. And so we end up in this spot when we come up with these, great goals and we're all motivated, and then womp womp, they're hard. Or maybe we're in this 80%, or maybe we're in the 20%, but it's hard and it's not as easy as we thought. We feel bad about ourselves. But when you really learn what's going on, you're like, oh, I wish I would have known that, because the more we know about how this works, the more grace we give ourselves and the more of an opportunity we have to maybe try it a different way. And so specifically, I feel like this is the thing for me, certainly being in the corporate world, that I always see. And in every kind of like article I read, when I get all geared up, it's like, okay, yes, like my SMART goals. And this is a really great framework and methodology, because it gives us something to grab onto to start thinking about things, but they say, like, be specific in your goal, make it measurable, make it achievable, make it realistic, make it timely. This is a very Western way of going about goal setting. And it is great. I don't want to say that it is not useful, because I think anything that helps us consider where we want to be in possibility is very helpful. But I think that what I wanted to do is go under the covers a little bit. And for those of you that may not realize, like, what happens when we sit down and do this and then set off to march up that mountain, to give some insight into why it can be difficult. And in general, it's because our brains naturally are wired for resistance. With this diagram kind of, shows you what happens, like at the very top, when you introduce the notion of change. We'll just stick with change as opposed to ambiguity. But in general, that gets, and I will not give you this, like the PhD version, because we only have a limited amount of time and I could talk about this all day. But in general, when you come up with, hey, here's what I want to do to change my life, which is involved when you have a goal. And usually a goal is either you're trying to create a new habit that would serve you or break a habit. Well, you do that in your front brain. And the front part of the brain is actually the youngest part of the brain that makes us human. And I think that because we've only been human, we feel like we're so capable, and we are. But what we don't realize is that under the covers, there's a primal brain that's been around for millions of years prior to this. I call it the puppy brain developing. And so what happens is there's all these neural pathways that are already established and have been functioning like for years beyond us, the machinery behind these neuromechanics that fears change, because to them, it's basically looking out for a change in the situation where the lion shows up and is going to eat you. And it's wired whenever any suggestion of change comes to kind of hunker down. And I say, go into either the fight or flight or fetal position. And so that ends up making it what's difficult, like these neural pathways that have already been blazed in our life. That's what's comfortable for the brain. And because it wants to preserve its energy for any other number of things that we have going on, it prefers to just stay the course with whatever's easy. And there's a saying in counseling school, what wires together, fires together. And what that basically means is the more often you've done something or not done something, that's what your brain gets used to. And so it's comfortable in that pathway. And your subconscious likes it when things are comfortable, because then it can preserve your energy for these new things that take a lot of energy. And actually, the interesting thing is when you introduce change to your brain, the areas of your brain that are involved in possibility and creativity and discipline, they have a really, really hard time operating. It's almost like they go into freeze mode as well. And so it takes an incredible amount of additional energy for those parts of the brain to come back up to speed where they normally operate when they're in their routine. And so again, I know that's not the most clinical explanation or eloquent, but it gives you the gist of that. Like, we are wired to resist change in general, and that's why it feels hard. So when it feels hard, you're normal is what it means. And I recently heard this piece on NPR where it was brilliant, because the woman was talking about, when we seek to make these changes, what really has the most thing to do with whether or not we'll be successful making progress is the amount of friction that's involved in the change. And she was giving different examples where she was talking about, like, when you're trying to quit smoking, that's a great idea. But physically, there are all these things in your body that are already wired such that there's going to be so much friction when you're trying to overcome something that has this like physical element to it, because your physical wiring is already connected that, which is related to your neural wiring as well. But she gave this really great example that I thought was awesome when she said, try to think about what you're asking yourself to do and anticipate the friction points. And she gave an example how she was trying once her son was born, and or it was her second son was born, and she was trying to figure out, where can I fit in taking care of myself and exercising? Like, I know I need it for balance, everybody tells me, but it's stressing me out because I have no time. And so she told herself, look, if I really want to do this, what I'm going to have to do is in the morning. I'm going to have to get up at 5 a.m. And, so she went through all these things around how that's friction because she's not a morning person. So I just appreciated her candor on it as well. But she said, I think the thing for me was, I would realize as I watched myself, I would wake up and be tired. And then I would have to figure out in the dark, where are my running clothes? And how do I turn them on without waking my husband up? And so she went through this whole thing. And so she said, this might sound crazy, but what I finally started trying to do was I wore part of my running clothes to sleep in as pajamas. And then when I got up, all I had to do was put on my socks and shoes, and I had them right at my bed. And the cool part about it is what she says, once she did that, she didn't have to do that forever. But once she did that and could get up, and even for the first week, she could get herself out for her run, she'd reduce the friction. Then what she noticed is the voice in her head that was always questioning whether or not she could actually do that, or that was telling her she wasn't a morning person, that voice dissipated. And she had an aha where she realized she had all these layers of friction that would then feed back into that voice. And so she said that's what she did for a couple of weeks, is wore her running clothes to sleep in. And then she was able to overcome that friction and get up and run. And the more that she did that, the less valid that voice in her head that you can't do this, it'll never work was. And so I just thought it was a really practical example of thinking about these things that we ask ourselves and looking at it from the standpoint of, where is the friction and where can we reduce friction? And even anticipating, like, it's, she also offered, she had tried to start eating healthier, but whenever she met her girlfriend for the heart to heart, she'd have her glass of wine, and she felt like that had more sugar than she wanted, or there was something that she wanted to limit that. And so she said she would just imagine getting to the restaurant, and when the waiter came asking, what would you like? And her friend would order wine. And so she would imagine that friction. And she said, I just got there a tiny bit early before my friend. And I told the waiter, I'm really trying to not drink as much wine now. Could you just bring me a mocktail and a wine glass? And that helped her. So again, just, I thought, like, a really practical, like, professional that's in this world that was really owning, even for her, she studies this, and here's why it's hard. And here are some tricks that she employed along the lines of classic goal setting that we make. But something I wanted to share that I learned that was sort of blew my mind in my classes was, I knew that there is this notion of neuroplasticity where, yes, our brains are wired a certain way that we're comfortable for. And so it's challenging to overcome that, and it takes energy and whatnot. But what's happening when you do finally overcome it and you develop a new habit or you break one is you're rewiring your brain. Like that thing before I said, what wires together, fires together. Like, once you start to change your habits gradually, though that wiring gets a bit looser, and then you have the shot to create a new neural pathway that ultimately makes it easier for you to do what you want to do. And it takes time is the thing. Like we want this as Americans overnight. We really want to believe that whole 14-day habit. It's unfortunately not that true. And it's more on the course of like at the minimum 21 days, but that also depends on what it is. Like the less friction it involves, the change is 21 days. The longer, like the harder it is, it could be something like 4 months. And I say that to encourage you, not to discourage you, because I think that we all need to be a little gentler on ourselves. Like, I think we need to stay inspired and motivated. But I think part of what makes it hard is when we expect so much of ourselves and then we're disappointed and we think it's our fault. Where again, like, I'm kind of here to be like, get to know your brain. It's actually like our brains that we need to get to know. And then we can, focus more on that. If we're making progress, like, that's amazing in and of itself, even if we haven't gotten there yet. But it's like the power of being on the way. And so specifically with this neuroplasticity, what I learned is that people that actually get very imaginative and engage their senses in their goal and intention setting, what happens is when you can do that and actually imagine and take the time to imagine first, like why this goal matters to you, and like almost allow yourself to feel it inside. It's this crazy, but there are little like neuron nets, if you will, that start growing. It's almost like they know that. And so they start growing as though you've already accomplished that goal. When you can see yourself in that moment, in that space where you want to be, the brain doesn't know any different. So it starts growing those little neural pathways that align with that reality. And it's so magical to me. There's this whole spectrum. You could see it from this perspective of being spiritual to being physics to being scientific. And I think it all can count, but at the end of the day, it's very, very magical. And so that's what I wanted to walk you down, just a little teaser of what those exercises can look like to start activating those new little neural buds, I'll call them, in your brain towards this goal setting. And in the process, what we're going to do is we're going to maybe consider putting SMART goals just like in the parking lot for a minute and considering what it might be like to approach your goals from a WISE goals standpoint. And for WISE, what I mean is the process we're going to go through today is really getting clear on your why around the goal. Why does this goal matter so much to you? Why will it make a difference? The next piece of it is the imagination part of it, which is really linked to what I talked about before, that like you can kind of Jedi mind trick your brain. And it's like the coolest thing to me. For those of you that have done vision boards, that's where this comes in. I never knew why they worked, and they do work. They have worked for me, but like turns out there's science behind it, not just cosmic magic. The S of WISE is steps, really kind of getting clear on smaller steps as opposed to these grandiose, let's move mountains together and then being disappointed. And the last one is about evolving, evolution as opposed to revolution. So I buckle up. We're going to go through this fairly quickly in the interest of time. Like I said, I tend to I lead these in like retreats or workshops that are anywhere from half day to like a weekend. So I get this is baptism by fire and drinking from a fire hydrant, all that. But this will at least give you kind of directionally some things that you can do on your own. And we'll take some time to do each. I want you to take a deep breath and think of, you may already have the goal that you've set. You may have not set it because you're so sick and tired of setting New Year's resolutions that you've just like decided to, shelve that. Or you may not have one at all. Just like take 30 seconds to just reflect on if there were a goal that you've had. And I want you to ask yourself, and if you have a paper and pen nearby, feel free to write this down if that works for you. I want you to answer for yourself, why is this goal so important to me? And whatever answer came up first for you is fine. Go with that. Whatever answer, why. And if you do have a paper and pen handy, even just jot a little phrase of that. So now I want you to look at your answer to that, and I want you to answer the question, why is that important? And now ask yourself again to that response. Dig in even a little bit deeper and say, why is that important? What is it about that that's important to you? And if it's available to you to one last time, ask yourself again the why. Why is that important? You might already be at your limit of the whys, but if you've got another level, go ahead and go there. And then after this, I want everybody to close your eyes, take another deep breath. Inhale, exhale. And when you open your eyes with your pen, I want you to write down in one word or small phrase how you want to feel as a result of accomplishing this goal. If you had to say, accomplishing this goal, if I could accomplish this goal, then I would feel. It's that simple one feeling in a word or a phrase. And I want you to circle that feeling. And if you haven't quite been able to get there yet, like that's okay. Like I said, this can, definitely take some time. So if you have to go back and revisit it to reflect, then please, by all means, do that. But you'll at least have the pathway to getting there. So now that you have that feeling, that destination feeling, and you have why this goal, it's so clear to you why it's so important and why that keeps coming up or why it first came to mind even today. And this is something we won't have time for today, but this is your, I don't want to call it homework because I know that just seems like another to do, but just put it as like your fun, creative time to like let your brain play. But I want you to be able to write down what an ideal day looks like in your life once you could imagine being there and that feeling what it's like. So for me, when I had this this goal, my word and my feeling was vitality. I wanted to have a sense of vitality. And so what I did is I almost wrote like a little letter reflection to myself in a book. And it was basically like, I woke up today and I just wrote what that ideal day looked and felt like when I got to that place of vitality. And so again, it's like it's a Jedi mind trick. Just pretend that you're there and you can see yourself there, and just write as much as you can about the details of your day using sensory details. So what I mean by that is I might have said like, okay, I woke up today and I smiled as I opened my eyes because I felt so rested and didn't need to hit the snooze button. And I loved that the sunshine was streaming in the window and I could smell the coffee, but wanted to do a little jig that I was going to enjoy it as a ritual, not because I needed the octane to get going. And so just go through your day and write about that from a sensory standpoint. And by sensory, again, we need things that you could smell, you can taste, you can feel. And why that is it's that sensory detail that when you imagine it and you can see yourself in that space, that's where that magic in your brain happens, where those neurons start, like those buds kind of start budding and wanting to reach towards that. So that's where like the potential actually starts to happen. But that's why it's important to really be able to close your eyes and imagine yourself there as though it's what you envision and what that feeling feels like, and using juicy, juicy details to detail that. And then once you can get through this, and again, this all doesn't need to happen back to back. Like you could break these up over time, and maybe you do like one of these steps, a week. You could do, one a day, you could do one a week. Like I'd said, in retreats, this is usually spread out over a weekend. So give yourself some grace. But I think that you've got that vision of the feeling, and you have the sensory around like what it would be like in that feeling. And then what you just want to do is start just brainstorming. What are all the little mini steps that could be involved in helping you feel that way? And forgive like the blurry image here, but I just grabbed this and I wanted to show you an example of something that's called clustering. And it's very different than writing a list. A list is very left brain and logical and very smart goals. Okay, which is fine, but we're trying to do something different and like get your right brain involved in a way that creates a new possibility. So when you do what's called clustering, what you would basically do is take that feeling that you found and put that in a circle in the middle of your page. And that's your feeling, that's your goal, how you want to feel. And then I just want you to start brainstorming in no particular order all the different little things that you could do that would help with that. So for instance, as an example with me with the vitality, I said, okay, what are all the things I think that I could do to feel more vital? And it was like, okay, and of course, the first one was like, working out. I felt like if I worked out, there was more energy, and that would shut me down because it seemed like an awful big change. So then I decided to say, okay, taking a multivitamin, like, I think that's a good idea. And I haven't been doing that. I think about it a lot with everything else. And then I thought, oh, hydrating, I should just drink some more water. And then it was, you know what, if I journal in the mornings, even if I can only do it a few times a week, like I feel more vital starting. And, I've actually found that when I don't have that second glass of wine at night, I do sleep better and wake up more well rested. So it was like, I just put wine because I knew what that meant. And so I just brainstormed everything that I could think of that could maybe contribute to this way I wanted to feel at the end of that year. And then you might be thinking like, okay, wait, Jen, if I do that, that's going to be so overwhelming, but just sit with it. What it's actually doing is getting out of your brain all the shoulding you're going to do. So that's what we're doing. We're kind of just trying to throw all that up and get it out of your brain, declutter your brain with all of these things that you've already thought about relative to this. And when you're trying to be perfect and get to that finish line within a month. So when you can go through, and again, like the smaller, the better, but you should honor whatever comes up. You should honor that workout. I did have on here, like, the exercise. And then I had things where I'd feel more a sense of vitality if I ate better. And I was like, oh, that's a doozy. Like, I love gluten. So, but I just put it out there. Just go ahead, put it out there. And then once you have that body, the art form is realizing like, okay, you don't have to do it all. And it's actually impossible to do all of that if you're going to be a reasonably well-functioning human being that isn't going to end up like completely fatigued with no mental reserves left for your family, for your partner, for, having heart-to-hearts with a friend when you ever have time to do that. This is really like a gentler, kinder way to get there. And so what you'll start to do is, if you think through this from the standpoint of that friction example, I want you to take those and then prioritize them from easiest to the hardest, with number one being the simplest, easiest thing you can do that you might almost feel silly. Like for me, it was journaling, because it's something I've done since 4th grade. It's easy for me. I crave it. Some people are like that about running. I am not. So running was on the bottom of my list. But my journaling, I'm like, okay, I already relatively easily do that in the mornings. I can't do it every day, but 3 times a week, that's going to help me be vital. And that's where I started. And I started that in my first month. This was after a year when January hadn't gone well. So I said, in February, It's all I'm going to do. If in February I can journal 3 times a week-ish, and I can make that feel regular and that's feeding me, that's all I need to do. And then the next thing I did was I assigned to February a multivitamin. And I said, okay, like I'm going to do the multivitamin because that's super easy and I should be able to do that. It's the beginning of my day. It's a small thing. And oh, it just so happens I have to drink water to do that at a time I normally wouldn't. And so after February, that went well. And I was like, okay, I'm journaling. And that was kind of a freebie, but I still gave myself credit. And then in March, I added the multivitamin with the water. And I didn't get it right every day, but I certainly at the end of March was taking way more multivitamins, probably at least 4 to 5 times a week, which was like, I'm not a math person, but what, 400% increase over where I'd been before, but it was better. And then that next month I said, okay, like, what's the next thing I want to add? I want to add in hydrating and being intentional beyond just when I take my multivitamin. And I just figured out what that looked like. I got a little mini app. I'm not an app person. I like to keep life simple, but it was this little hydration app that was so dang cute and it nudged me and it worked. And so I wasn't drinking like the maximum amount of water perfectly every day, but I was drinking more water than I had. And so you can kind of see how you step through this and so on and so forth, but you're doing it in a way that you're starting from the least amount of friction to build those neurons in a way that you're likely to follow up on and to keep doing. And it's easier for you, but you still get credit and you feel like you're having this victory and it feeds on itself. And so that's the thing is then as you add things later on, it's easier because you've been growing that strength in your brain. And I think you'll be amazed when you try it like this, how, again, this is not a quick fix, but for that feeling you want to have, like, you know, it's natural. That's going to take a little bit of time. And if you can be more gradual and gentle with yourself, full well knowing that that's the best way to work with your brain to make this new possibility a reality and to be able to write that chapter, your chances of getting there will be better. And you'll just feel better about yourself along the way, that you know you're on your way and you're in the process of evolution and getting there. And you haven't arrived yet, but you're on your way, as opposed to, oh, I fell off the wagon, like I've failed. It's just a totally different mindset that'll really aims to serve you. And just kind of some general, if this is something, there are plenty of books out there, articles. Nobody has time to read, but if you are out and walking or, you know, at any point in the car for any reason, or have, you know, obviously you can get these on audio. But if you were going to pick one book you wanted to read that's relative to this, that'll really help you go to the next level and put this into practice, I'd recommend on the left, The Kaizen Way. It's actually a really small book in the spirit of what it is, but it talks a lot more about what I went into the neurology, and talks you through how to go about it, and also shows you just a tremendous amount of success stories. And it's really easy, really approachable. You know, you can even just have it in your restroom, and when you're in there and you pop in, and just, it's really that small. So you can read this in the same spirit that we talked about today. So I hope that was helpful. Again, I know it was fast. I feel like I could always spend like a whole day with you ladies. So thanks for the time. Be gentle with yourselves, give it a go. And I'd be curious if anybody, you know, tries it, like what they notice, or, and that would be the last thing that I would say is, if you have friends in the Prowess, you know, community, when you pair up with somebody and even just telling them, I intend to do this, can we just check in next month to see how it's going? Even just that, if there's like one step you take to try to do this to support yourself, that will make the biggest difference. You're 80% more likely to actually be able to move forward and evolve when you give voice to it and share it with somebody and check in with each other in a supportive way. So, okay. Happy birthday.
I absolutely love it. What a great, great, great presentation as always. I took 3 or 4 pages of notes. This is, and I loved the last part, Jen. We absolutely should do that. Pair up in the community and just talk through. You don't have to give details, because I know a lot of this can be personal, but I would like someone to help me and check in on what I wrote and make sure it's happening. So Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just love having you here.
Thanks,
I
ladies.
could
I'm
listen
honored
to it
that
all
you
day.
asked me back.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, quick shift. Let me share my screen. Got about 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to do a quick reminder of why we're here. I'm not sure if everyone has heard my story, and I was thinking about that and what Jen was saying too. When you are thinking about something and you are like imagining it comes true, and that today is a perfect example of that. So quick background on me. I was B2B tech marketer, did that for 13 years, and I was really worried about how I was going to have a career and a family someday. Jumped on to Harvard Business Review and found that if a woman is out of the workforce for 3 years, she loses 37% of her compensation power forever. And that was astounding to me. What I saw out in the market, and as talking to several women who are in this position, what I realized is there is a lot of options out there to help, but they were very dispersed. There would be a community here, there would be confidence and goal training here, there would be a job board here, and there would be upskilling here. And that is so overwhelming to piece together all those opportunities when you're just trying to find the next step. And I wanted to share that because that's where it came from. And then within just these 2 short years, this is where we are today. So a quick year in review. First and foremost, got to look at the numbers. We doubled our revenue that we did our first year and our second year, which is insane considering we had COVID-19 and the world was just turned upside down. And I want to, the reason why that's so important is because that keeps us being able to do this and continues to help us provide more resources for you all and continue this mission that we're on. With that same thing in mind, we launched the Prowess community, which you are all part of, and we're growing 70%, 75% month over month, which is huge. We've spent 0 on marketing. And this is just all of you telling your friends about, hey, there's this community and I'm getting X, Y, and Z from it. And I just thank you. Also super exciting. We grew our team from 3 last year to 8 this year. That is phenomenal. And I would say, Leah, what we probably get emails every 2 weeks of people asking if we have internal roles open. And I wish I could give you all jobs to work inside Prowess. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I know that we will be so successful, because on a talent standpoint, I would hire every single one of you just because you're so amazing and can really help this grow. Big hats off to Leah from this past year of just building out the technology behind all of this. I think that it's one thing what we do and the magic and the mission and how important it is, but a lot of times the how gets overlooked because it's a lot of minutia. And Leah is in there all day, every day, not only thinking so high level of how is this going to come together and what is this going to look like in the future and how do I build that today, but also fixing every little thing that goes wrong. I have no words for Leah Steinkirk of just how amazing she is and what she has been able to build this past year. It's just amazing. And she's constantly thinking about, how do I create better fits from a job opportunity to a candidate for all of these women? So it's just amazing. We continue to lower the financial barrier for women to return to the workforce. Top things that I want to share here, we did a crowdfunding campaign to sponsor some of the women that go through our certification. Please know that the certification fee is it barely, if any, it really doesn't cover the cost of doing that. And so having sponsors help us was a huge opportunity to get more and more women through our program. And then also being able to halt on the financial aspect during COVID and giving a ton of women opportunity to pay it forward. And that was just huge. We saw a massive influx of women who could use our program, and know that more and more ideas and solutions like that are coming for 2021. And then this one is really exciting. There was a big lull in Prowess, quote unquote, opportunities, like job opportunities, from June to September, being super transparent here. And that a lot of it was because of COVID. There were a ton of companies, obviously, we know, that had to halt hiring, had to let people go, the whole shebang. And then there was also a lot of companies who just didn't know how they were going to change and adapt because of COVID. And so we saw this 6-month kind of lull, but right during that time, it gave me a great opportunity to talk to 50 plus partners who all want to see you succeed. So little in the future, you will see us working with a lot more of these partners to be able to bring you more and more value. So exciting stuff there. More the future of Prowess, what you can expect. When I think of Prowess, the way we built it, what I am thinking about all day, every day, is being intentional. That was so key to us when we were building this. Not to get too far into it, but when I'm trying to talk to potential investors about Prowess, oftentimes what I hear is, hey, Ashley, you are doing, and Prowess is doing a certification. It's also doing a community. It's also doing confidence training. And it's also doing a job, not just a job board, a never before done job matching with emotional intelligence and IQ. Like, how are you going to do all of that? And we're nervous about it. And my response to that over and over and over again is, that's fine. You're not our right partner. Because when I went out and talked to all of the women, all of you who were having trouble getting their next job or finding the right fit, I heard over and over and over again that this was a massive problem, and it was complicated, and it was messy, and there were lots of steps to it. And and confidence is something that is so personal to everyone, and their journey looks different. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that we're seeking people who understand how intentional that we're being, and how we want to solve your entire problem, not giving you these little fix-its. So happy to talk more about that and what that means. But in the interest of time, I want to keep going. Authentic, how we will sound. It's going to be a lot more, and already is, less corporate and more personal. And we're going to be sharing more personal stories. We're going to be sharing the bad as well as all the good that's happening. When you're in the community, we created a new job corner, and what I have vowed to do is giving you guys insights of the conversations that we're having with employers, because I know that that's really important to you all, to know the progress and to be along the way with us. For this upcoming year, growth is huge. We spent our first year figuring out, hey, does this work? We spent our second year of diving into, like I was saying before, the technology and building the infrastructure so that it can scale. And now we are ready to bring people in. And so you'll see a ton of that. And within that same vein, as I was saying before, it will be access. We will be giving you access to more partners, more opportunities, and more experts like Jen to come in and help, like I said before, the very complicated journey that it is finding a job, figuring out your goals, rebuilding your confidence. It's not easy. And oftentimes it's that thing you want to put at the very end, like Jen was saying, like, what's the hardest next thing? Oftentimes it's that. The way that you can help, as always, is we have an ambassador program that the lovely Linda Gordon runs. Goal is to spread the word, not just to employers, but also fellow women who would like to be a part of the Prowess community. because like I said before, it's all about growing. We have this referral opportunity here. And then lastly, just to continue, we are looking for more and more small group organizers who will say, hey, yeah, I have a passion about, I'm going to make something up. Well, confidence and how growing confidence. So you could dive into the community, host one of these small groups, and have a monthly meetup. So looking for people who are interested in that. And with that, quick reminder, please continue to be in the community. Let us know what's working, what's not working. What do you wish you saw that you don't? What features do you wish you had? All of this, at the end of the day, Prowess is for y'all. And without your feedback and without understanding exactly what you are looking for, we are not going to be successful. And like I said at the very beginning, success for me is being intentional and truly looking at the problem and solving it in all the best ways we possibly can. So if you're interested in the ambassador program, let me or Linda know. And then as always, quick shout out to Emily, who does our Tuesdays meditation. It has changed my workday completely. So with that, I know we have 1 minute. I'm happy to stay on if there are any questions, but I also wanted to give a big round of applause to Jen, who has just been awesome. Like I said, I took so many notes, and I'm buying that book, The Kaizen Way. Is that what it is? Or Kaiser Way? Kaizen?
The
Kaizen Way.
Put all your applause towards Ashley and Leah and Prowess for today. It's your birthday, so let's celebrate you all.
Well, thank you. With that, I'm going to open to any questions, any comments, any intentions, what have you. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. So glad to have you all here.
I posted some links from Jen in the Prowess community under today's post. So she gave us some links, a YouTube link for the Kaizen Way, if anyone's looking for that.
Awesome. Well, y'all know where to find me. If there's anything y'all need or want to talk through, door's always open. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Oh.
Now it's a party.
Now it is a party. Oh, goodness. So funny. Leah, do we need to do anything for the recording or the live stream? I just didn't want to hop off unless.
Nope, we're good. I'll just edit it from there and make sure everyone can see it. So
awesome. Well, this was fantastic as always. Thank you.
Bye.